Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the October 19th, 2023 open meeting of the Guelph Police Services Board. I'd like to start with a territorial acknowledgement. As we gather, let us take time to reflect on our privilege to live and work in Guelph, a city built over rich Indigenous histories. We are guests here, and we should reflect upon the responsibility to care for this land, the people who live here today, and the generations to come. And our actions today can move us towards reconciliation. We should take pause and make those decisions with intention and gratitude. This place we call Guelph has served as a traditional lands and place of refuge for many peoples over time, but more specifically the Atiwandarunk and the Haudenosaunee. This land is held as the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Guelph lies directly adjacent to the Haldimand Tract and is part of a long-established traditional hunting ground of the Six Nations of the Grand River. Many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people who have come from across Turtle Island call Guelph home today. So, I'd like to start by asking if there are any declarations of conflict or pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflicts of Interest Act. Hearing none, I will declare that item closed. Next item is, I believe we have a motion from the closed session. Mayor Guthrie.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And through you, I'm happy to move a motion seconded by Councillor Alt for the amount of $1,000 to go to the Cop for Kids program through the community account.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? I declare that carried. Okay, we have no delegations today. So I am asking for a mover and a seconder for our agenda. Moved by Councillor Alt and seconded by Vice Chair Armstrong. Does anybody wish to change anything move anything from the consent prior to us passing this, or are we content to have it as is? Okay, hearing no objections to that, then I think we'll just proceed with it as is. So all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Okay, at this point, I need a mover and a seconder for the consent agenda. Moved by Vice Chair Armstrong, seconded by Mayor Guthrie. In favor? Opposed? Carried. Next item on our agenda is the operating budget, the 2023 to 2027 operating budget. And I am going to ask Chief Kobe to lead the discussion on this matter for us.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Now, before I start kind of the material parts of the discussion, I just wanted to highlight for the board on page 3 of 7, since the board got this report, a couple of these dates have changed at the council level, just to make sure the board was aware. Not material to the discussion with respect to the budget itself, but there've been some updated date changes. If you need to know specifically, whether it be now or offline, Sarah can provide those. Now, with respect to the, sorry, Mr. Chair, I just had a technical difficulty here. Bear with me.
I hope you don't have.
Go ahead.
It's okay.
I found it. With respect to the budget, I know the board has the report. We haven't restated everything from our last meeting. I think one of the key discussions that arose at the last meeting was the board's motion with respect to consideration on how our service could further support the wellness of our community. Specifically, the motion was to look at the viability of supporting the impact team with an investment of $750,000. So essentially what we have been able to do, we've tried to find a creative solution working with CMHA, specifically Executive Director, Ms. Helen Fishburne. We're very fortunate, spoiled by the relationship we have with Helen and her team. Is the option that we're giving the board for consideration is would be not from the operational funding, as we discussed last week, kind of the critically important roadmap laid out by KPMG. We're not able to look at operational funding as a source, but from our operating reserve, that account, the proposal would have the board, if they choose, sponsor one FTE from CMHA for each year of the multi-year budget. The specific amounts are there before you. But what this vision would see this position not exactly doing what Impact has done in the past, but rather the board would be sponsoring CMHA to have a fully trained mental health worker who would work with our community response officers to specifically support our downtown. So in addition to Connor, in addition to our frontline platoons, this would kind of bring to their suite of options a partner with them who would work primarily during the day. The specific details are yet to be finalized, but more of a daily presence so that we would have a fully trained mental health worker working alongside our members to not only be able to support folks in crisis, but to be visiting people when they're maybe not necessarily in crisis, to maybe find out are there some measure of proactive support we can give, maybe help them find better care paths or provide that level of proactive support. I'll let the board ask any questions, but that's probably the gist of anything that's changed materially since we last met.
First question, Mr. Mayor Guthrie.
Thank you. I guess process-wise, Chair, I'm first of all happy to put the entirety of the motion on the floor for the operating budget, if there's a seconder, and then I can speak to the matter if you want me to.
Thank you. Seconder for the motion to approve the budget, Vice Chair Armstrong. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. I just want to start by saying thank you for, you used the word creative, and I think I would just say ditto to that. A creative way of trying our best to figure out how to roll out exactly what you just said in regards to funding for an impact worker, and specifically in working alongside our officers in the downtown core. I think this is really really valid. I think my question though is, would we maybe just get a report in a year, let's say, Chief, through to you or to the senior leadership team, about how that interaction and relationship is working? It's something that's not been done before. It'd be very interesting, I don't think just to me personally, but to the board and to the public about seeing some outcomes about that partnership that we're looking to go on. So that's my first question.
Absolutely, yes. We'd work with CMHA to come up with kind of good metrics to give the board updates. And as you can see, this would envision a 4-year commitment to this program. So we could see short and longer term. At the end of the 4 years, we'd have to look if it was going to be operationalized longer, then we couldn't pull from reserves. But yes.
Okay, that's great. I think that's really important. So thank you for saying that. And then my other question, not specific to this item that you and staff have come back with on the recommendation, which again, I do agree with, but my second question is to you, through you, Chair, to the senior leadership team or to the chief. The KPMG report, is very thorough in identifying where some of the capacity issues are in some of the departments, and to make sure that we're looking forward to having the right capacity, the right amount of FTEs in here to respond to the issues that our community is facing. And one of them was in regards to intimate partner violence, or for us, it's the domestic violence response. And I just wondered if you could speak to that and how the KPMG report speaks to that issue, and how this budget looking for approval speaks to the potential of helping in that area. I think it's important that when people look at just more FTEs every year over the 4-year multi-year budget, a few next year, a few the next year, a few the next year, they're being identified, I guess, tied to a vision of where we need these extra FTEs to exist in turn to help the community. So can you broaden us a little bit on why that's important to have those FTEs there?
Sure. And as you can say, so obviously the KPMG report is kind of like the critically important roadmap over the long term on how we can implement these investments. Deputy Gill, I'm coming to you in a second to give an update, but one of the key areas was kind of our investigative services, intimate partner violence is an excellent example, as well as human trafficking. Like, there's a number of very, very important areas in our community that the additional investments will allow us to more not only investigate, but proactively support and educate and hopefully prevent certain types of things. So I'm going to suggest that we come back to you with a report in the next couple of months to kind of give some more highlights on this. But Steve, can you kind of support the mayor's question in relation to that as well? Any thoughts?
Yeah, and through you, Mr. Chair, certainly when it comes to intimate partner violence, we certainly take it very seriously within our service. And to the mayor's question, in terms of the KPMG report, we're certainly looking at adding a resource as early as January into that area. Again, to the chief's point, to hopefully be somewhat more proactive to assist with human trafficking, which very often starts at a family level within domestic violence, and continuing to work with our partners, Women in Crisis, Victim Services, other key stakeholders in the community. So we certainly take it seriously. We acknowledge the KPMG report and looked at a resource into that specific area as early as January.
Okay, thank you. And my last question on the budget is just, can you please explain how this budget does start to align with a focus on some of the downtown issues after coming out of the pilot project that we've done?
Sure, yeah. So what this budget will do, and should the board choose to support the investment that we just talked about from CMHA. So what we found very clearly, our community in the last several months has indicated they want more support and presence in the downtown by our members. So what this budget will entail, in addition to Connor, in addition to our frontline patrol, an additional resource to support the downtown. And now that resource would be accompanied by a CMHA, like a fully trained mental health worker as well. So the goal, as we said 2 weeks ago, we can't keep asking members to come in on their days off to have a presence downtown. This helps us now start to position ourselves so we have properly resourced platoons so that Connor or our community resource officers can support the downtown. Now with a CMHA worker, well, those other platoons can have additional resources to look after the rest of the city. So happy to be even more specific, Mr. Mayor, but if that's a high level response, if you're good with that.
No, that's fine. And those are my only questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Alt.
Thank you, Chair McSherry. Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly.
Check that. There's a couple of points that I think are important for public consumption. What I understand is that this means that we will be having 3 police finance personnel downtown, one of whom is a social worker, 2 of whom will be police officers. Is that correct? If this passes?
Yeah, so what this budget assumes, in addition to Connor, so we've always had Connor. Now, when we say Connor, Connor's not there 24/7, but so Connor is dedicated to the downtown. Now, our goal as we organize sort of the logistics with Helen and her team, a mental health worker from CMHA, who's primarily, much like the last program ran, like 40 hours a week, kind of the daytime hours, kind of business hours. And then in addition to that, we'll be dedicating someone to be more like a traditional downtown support officer. Like you might have seen, I believe, Deputy Gates, when you started here 20 years ago, there was someone who, there was virtually a presence in the downtown, maybe not at 5 a.m. every day, but like a downtown officer present all the time.
A proactive presence, if that's what you're looking for, yes.
So that would be those 3 people. It doesn't mean, and I should calibrate, it doesn't mean 24/7, 365, always 3 people, but it'd be 3 people, like those 3 FTEs in general, they're dedicated to support the downtown. We want to get away from just being downtown to respond to crisis and to have that interaction with our community, now both with the support from CMHA as well.
Thank you. And so the CMHA support, I understand that rather than that being reactive, the attempts will be to make it proactive. In other words, engaging with and assessing needs. Is that correct?
I would say yes in both, because I'm sure there will also be times where this resource will help those in crisis.
Yes.
But not just. So, for example, our existing impact team, their primary mission is when people are in crisis, they're called. This person will have the ability to serve that role if needed, but also on a regular basis be interacting with our folks and maybe even our business folks or welcoming streets or other stakeholders, other community health providers to support people who need it in a holistic, proactive way, not always just responding to crises.
Thank you very much. I was wondering, the reason that we are doing this with the social worker, I have always presumed, is a consequence of gaps in funding from elsewhere. This is not normally staffing from the police services perspective. I believe that's correct, and if I'm not, I'd be happy to be corrected. But I was wondering if you could please outline, as I noticed, I think it was Mayor Guthrie yourself said that this is you can't pull from the reserves forever. And so we're pulling from reserves right now. I was wondering if you could go into that a bit. I think it's important for the public to appreciate that.
Yeah, so we are clearly, I think we can all agree that there's a lot of aspects of our community where we haven't always proactively resourced. Our members remain the last line of support for people. When other stakeholders aren't available, are overburdened with their other tasks. So no, we cannot fund this indefinitely, but we recognize in the current vacuum that exists for service provider and support, we want to do our part to demonstrate our commitment, to demonstrate, I think, to complement through the mayor and the city and Helen and so many other folks, the advocacy that's going on in our community to try to get proper funding in other areas. So we're trying to do our part to demonstrate our commitment, but we do have to acknowledge we're already strained to a breaking point in our core business. So it's not a sustainable long-term funding strategy. Sorry, Councillor Alt, you're muted.
Of course I'm muted. I believe also that our reserves are capped, and that if there's a specific dollar amount, and it's also capped by council bylaws as well. I was wondering if for public, if that information could possibly be shared. I think it's also important to recognize how tight this reserve actually is.
Yeah, so traditionally for many years, if the Guelph Police Service had a surplus, that surplus was returned to the city. Several years ago, the city passed a bylaw where we could have a 1% operating reserve. That was recently increased to 5%. So the maximum we're allowed to keep is a 5% operating reserve to respond to unforeseen events, whether it be as you can all imagine, whether it be pandemics or protests or unforeseen operational requirements like investigational expenses. So we have a relatively small savings account to mitigate unforeseen events. And our savings account is 5%. It can't go above 5%. So Sarah, I'll come to you if you have anything to add, unless I captured the essence there.
No, Chief, I think you got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members would like to make a question or a comment? Vice Chair Armstrong?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. I will also be supporting the motion, but I would like to hear, say, in a year's time, similarly as we've heard with respect to the actions taken regarding intimate partner violence and the new program with respect to the downtown, just a report as to how the various gaps that are being addressed in the KPMG report are in fact being mitigated by the approval of this budget. So if that could just be diarized for a year from now, that would be appropriate. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, then I'm going to, I'll read to you the motion that I'm asking you to vote on. Whereas the Guelph Police Service Board has reviewed the proposed 2024-2027 operating budget, and whereas the Guelph Police Board presented its operating budget to the public on October 5th, 2023, and provided the opportunity for feedback therefore, be it resolved that the Guelph Police Services Board approve the Guelph Police Service budget for 2024-2027 operating budget in the amount of $61,399,520, or sorry, dollars in 2024, $66,366,000 in 2025, $70,863,550 in 2026, and $75,403,900 in 2027, and that the Guelph Police Service Board approve the service's updated user fees as outlined in Appendix B effective January 1st, 2024, and that the Guelph Police Services Board recommend the transfer from Police Operating Contingency Reserve number 115 in the amount of $330,400 in 2024, $279,900 in 2025, $114,400 in 2026, and $116,400 in 2027, and that the Guelph Police Services Board recommend transfers from the Police Capital Reserve Fund number 158 in the amounts of $4,248,000 in 2024, $4,421,000 in 2025, $4,805,000 in 2026, and $4,982,000 in 2027, and that the board forwards this information to Guelph City Council. All in favor?
Before you call the vote, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry for a point of order. I'm so sorry. I completely forgot to ask a question about the attached fee schedule. Do you mind if I just have a quick question on that?
Sure, go ahead.
I'm so sorry, everyone on the screen. I'm so sorry. I can't find here about the records checks, like for volunteer, and I can't find it on. Oh no, I do. It's right here. I see it. My goodness. It's on page 26. So it says here, police clearance volunteer checks. It's at $35, and we're actually lowering it to $25. I just want to make sure that that is correct. So we're actually going to see a reduction in that. Okay, I see heads nodding. Thank you. My one question on that is this a cost recovery program? Like, I know it's not a profit center for sure. I know that, but is what we collect what it costs? I think that sends a little bit of a message to the community that as well. That's a good thing.
Sure, I'll let Sarah speak to that. Sarah, are you Good to chat to that? Just give her a second.
And just as Sarah's looking there, just again for the public, there's really like 3 levels, right, of record checks. There's the criminal and the information check. Those are actually 0 costs. It's the vulnerable sector cost that we are choosing to actually lower in cost, because that's the one a lot of people have to get, for the soccer coach and the drama club, or et cetera, right? So a lot of volunteers are there, and they to meet obligations under their volunteerism, they have to get this. So I love the fact that we're reducing it, but just want to know if it's kind of a cost recovery. It seems like it is to me. I just want to make sure.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, and sorry for the delay. That's a cost recovery. That fee is set to recover our costs.
Perfect. That's great. I'm so sorry to take the time on that, but it's something I've been meaning to speak about a little bit. And volunteerism is, it's always kind of a rough go. It was a rough go, especially over COVID, and any kind of barriers that we can, try to reduce. Even if it is $10. That's a barrier we're trying to help reduce as well, and I really appreciate that being embedded in the budget. So I'll stop there. Daryl, I saw your hand go up there, but thank you.
If I may, through you, Mr. Chair, just in addition to that, is partially cost recovery, but we also did a comparative analysis across other services in the province, and that's what nudges our fee down. So we didn't want to be seen as being higher than everybody else, so we kind of came into a mid-medium with respect to those that are trying to come in and get the application in. So I wouldn't say we fully recover our costs, but there's some soft costs in the background, but we were able to absorb it.
Yeah, as I said, through you, Mr. Chair, it's not a profit center that we're trying to gouge people or anything like that. Okay, and sorry, my last question in regards to that is: do we happen to have any idea how much in totality, about a year, what is collected there, Sarah? Is it a $50,000, $100,000? I just trying to it'd just be good for me to know before I put my other hat on and go to the city for that budget.
Sorry, do you mean for volunteer records checks on its own, or records checks in totality?
No, just the vulnerable sector check, the one that we charge for. Do you know how many of those are done in a year? Like how much?
I could get that information. I'm
Okay.
not sure if Inspector Goody has it. I could get that information easily for the full year 2022, or we could email out a summary updating you with the year-to-date numbers as well.
Sure. I mean, yeah, that'd be great. I think it'd be just interesting to know what the totality of that is for 2022, what we're looking at for 2023. That would inform me about other budgetary issues outside of this board. So thank you.
Okay. All right. In that case, I'm going to call the vote. All in favor?
Mr.
Bill,
Chair,
I
I don't know if you can. I was going to say, I don't think you can see me because I've lost visual. I'm in favor.
Thank you. Okay, so, and I didn't, Mr. Sharma, I didn't see your you're in favor. Okay, opposed? I declare that carried. Thank you. Next item is the Chief's monthly report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I only have one report for the board this month, and that's just a quick update with respect to our Safe Semester and Homecoming activities this year. Once again, with September, both Safe Semester and Homecoming events are obviously key events for our city and our service. Before I get into kind of the investments, so the costs, it's really important to point out, and the number's almost too many to list here, but City of Guelph, University of Guelph, Guelph Transit, Guelph Wellington Paramedics, GFD, Once again, kind of everyone comes together really well to support each other through the September Safe Semester and homecoming events. This year for Safe Semester downtown, we provided additional resources to supplement our neighborhood service platoons and University of Guelph Campus Safety Office on Friday and Saturday nights from September 1st to the 22nd. Over the Safe Semester operational period, 54 additional officers were deployed to support GPS, and 13 were deployed to the University of Guelph to support campus safety. Our total costs for Safe Semester were $46,708.68. Of that, GPS had $38,834.68 of GPS costs, and we're very thankful U of G supported that Safe Semester with $7,874, where they sponsored extra officers to support Safe Semester. In relation to homecoming, over that period, 58 officers were deployed to support GPS and 5 for U of G. Total costs were $97,205.10, $76,404.50 GPS costs. And again, thank you to U of G. They sponsored $20,800.60 for additional resources to support U of G and the community as a whole. Obviously, a busy time, busy month, busy weekend. I think to summarize, well, it was very busy. The cooperation of the community and kind of the planning that goes into that. No unforeseen events. And Deputy Gates, unless I'm missing something, anything else to add overall, or are we good there?
I think we're good there.
Deputy Gill?
Nope, we're good.
Okay. And barring that, Mr. Chair, I don't have any other monthly updates this month.
Thank you. Do any of the members have any questions for the chief arising out of that report? Hearing none, I'll declare that closed. Next item is new business. Are there any items of new business? Hearing none, I'll declare that closed. Our next item is to advise that our next open meeting will be held on Thursday, November 16th, 2:30 p.m. via Teams and live streamed on YouTube. My next item, I'm going to ask for a mover and a seconder to approve adjournment. Moved by Mr. Sharma and seconded by Mayor Guthrie. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, everybody.